There's something that happens to you when you leave what you know. Not just your house, not just your city, not just your normal routine. I mean, really leave. You step into another country, another language, another rhythm, another version of the world. And suddenly, things that felt so heavy back home seem to feel smaller. Your problems don't disappear, your responsibilities don't disappear, your dreams don't magically become easier, but your perspective changes. After visiting 20 countries, I realized the world is bigger than my routine, bigger than my city, bigger than my fears, bigger than my excuses. And once you see that, you can't go back to thinking small. Because travel does not show you new places, it shows you new versions of yourself. Before we dive into this week's episode, and if it's your first time here, welcome. You're in the right place. I'm Adam Publicover, founder and CEO of Publicover Media, a visionary creative and media agency built for the modern creative economy. Through Music X, we help independent artists grow with modern music marketing, release strategy, content direction, and advertising built around long-term fan development. Through Website X, we help artists, creators, entrepreneurs, and small businesses build clean, modern websites that make their brand look real, trusted, and ready to grow. I'm also an artist, singer, songwriter, producer, DJ, and the voice and host of Radio X. So, this show lives right in the intersection of music, business, creativity, travel, lifestyle, and building something bigger from the ground up. With that being said, welcome back to Radio X. This is episode 3, 20 countries later. And today, I want to talk about travel, not just travel as a vacation, not just travel as taking pictures, booking flights, staying in hotels, checking places off a list. This episode is about what travel does to you internally. It is about perspective. It's about freedom. It's about courage. It's about creativity. It's about ambition. It's about learning who you are when you step outside everything familiar. Because when you travel enough, you start to realize something. The world is not just a place you live in. The world is something that shapes you. It challenges you. It stretches you. It humbles you. It wakes you up. And after visiting 20 countries, I can honestly say this. I was not just collecting stamps. I was collecting perspective. I was collecting moments. I was collecting proof that life is much bigger than the routine we get used to. Sometimes you have to leave home to understand how much world is waiting for you. There's a certain feeling that comes with walking through an airport before an international flight. The lights are bright, people are moving fast, screens are changing, flights are boarding, different languages are being spoken all around you. You see people going home, people leaving home, people starting over, people chasing something, people running from something, people walking towards something they have never seen before. And when you are one of those people, there is this quiet moment where it hits you. I am really doing this. I am really leaving what I know. You get on the plane, the city disappears underneath the clouds, and for a few hours you are suspended between the life you know and the world you are about to enter. Then you land. The signs look different. The air feels different. The buildings have a different shape. The cars move differently. The streets sound different. You hear words you do not understand. You see people living their normal life in a place that feels new to you. And that is one of the most powerful parts of traveling. You realize that somewhere you call foreign is somebody else's normal. Somebody's waking up there, going to work there, falling in love there, building a dream there, trying to survive there, trying to become something there. And when you see that across 20 countries, it changes the way you see everything. You start to understand that life has so many different versions. One way to live. There's not one way to dream. There's not one way to build. There's not one way to become successful. There's not one way to be human. Every country has its own rhythm. Every city has its own heartbeat. Every place carries a different energy. And when you are paying attention, travel becomes more than movement. It becomes a mirror. It shows you what you value. It shows you what you fear. It shows what excites you. It shows what you have outgrown. It shows what parts of you are still waiting to be discovered. That is what 20 countries taught me. Travel is not only movement across a map, sometimes it is movement inside yourself. The first lesson is this: the world is becoming bigger than your problems. And I don't say that to minimize what anyone is going through. Life gets heavy. Stress is real. Pressure is real. Bills are real. Heartbreak is real. Fear is real. Ambition can feel heavy. Trying to build something can feel lonely. But when you travel, you see life from another angle. You see people carrying things you know nothing about. You see people working hard with less. You see people laughing with less. You see people finding joy in simple things and moments. You see people moving through life with strength, even when life has not been easy to them. And suddenly, the thing that felt like the entire world becomes one piece of a much larger picture. Travel has a way of putting your life back in a scale, not because your problems don't matter, but because they are not the whole universe. There's a whole world moving right now. People are dreaming in languages you don't speak. People are fighting battles you cannot see. People are building lives in places you haven't even heard of. People are loving, creating, surviving, celebrating, grieving, and growing all at the same time. And when you realize that, something shifts. You stop letting one bad day convince you that you had a bad life. You stop letting one setback convince you that the dream is over. You stop letting one city, one opinion, one failure, one season define your future. Because the world is too big for that. There's too much life still waiting. 20 countries later, I learned that perspective is one of the most powerful forms of freedom. Sometimes the thing you need the most is a new answer. Sometimes you need a bigger view. The second lesson is this: comfort zones are expensive. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels familiar. Comfort feels predictable. Comfort feels easy, but comfort has a cost. And it costs you confidence. It can cost you growth. It can cost you courage. It can cost you experience. It can cost you the person you were supposed to become. Comfort zones feel safe, but they quietly charge interest, and travel exposes that. Because when you are in another country, you cannot always rely on the same patterns. You might not know the language. You might not know the customs. You might not know where you are going. You might not know how your transportation works. You might not know who to ask. And in those moments, you have two choices. You can panic, or you can adapt. And every time you adapt, you grow. You learn how to communicate without all the perfect words. You learn how to move with confidence even when you do not have complete certainty. You learn how to be patient. You learn how to listen. You learn how to observe. You learn how to trust yourself. That kind of growth is different. It's not theory. It is not something you read in a book. It is real life putting you in a situation and asking, can you handle this? And then you realize, yeah, I can. Maybe I am capable more than I thought. Maybe I don't need everything to be familiar in order to move forward. Maybe confidence is not something you wait to feel. Maybe confidence is something you build by doing the thing anyways. That matters far beyond travel. That matters far beyond business. That matters in relationships. That matters in life, because the dream you want is probably not sitting in your comfort zone. The next level of your life is probably not waiting in the same routine with the same mindset, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. At some point, you have to leave the familiar. Physically, mentally, emotionally, creatively, you have to step into something bigger. The third lesson is this: culture changes creativity. As a creative, this means a lot because travel does something to your imagination. You hear new sounds, you see new colors, you feel new energy, you notice new details, the architecture, the fashion, the food, the street signs, the music coming out of a bar, the rhythm of people walking through a city, the way a place feels at night, the way it feels in the morning. All of that becomes input, and creativity needs input. You cannot keep creating from the same mental room forever and expect everything to feel fresh. Sometimes your creativity needs new air. Sometimes your art needs a new skyline. Sometimes your ideas need a different street. Sometimes your ambition needs to see what exists beyond the world you're used to. That is one of the reasons travel connects so deeply to music, business, podcasting, art, and storytelling. Every place has a rhythm. Some cities feel fast, some feel soulful, some feel ancient, some feel futuristic, some feel chaotic, some feel peaceful, some feel like they are built for dreams. Some feel like they are built from survival. And when you are paying attention, you absorb that. It changes how you think. It changes what you notice. It changes what you want to say. It changes how you tell stories. As an artist, as an entrepreneur, as a creative, that matters because your work can only be as deep as your perspective. If you never expose yourself to anything new, your ideas can start to repeat themselves. But when you travel, you give your mind new material, how people sell differently, how people express emotion differently, how music sounds different in different rooms, how style changes from country to country, how culture shapes confidence, movement, language, identity. And suddenly you're not just creating from your own little bubble. You're creating from a wider world. That is powerful because the more world you experience, the more truth you can bring into what you build. Travel gave me new colors for my imagination. It gave me new sounds for my ambition. Sometimes creativity is something you live your way into. Travel does not just give you memories, it gives your creativity somewhere new to pull from. The fourth lesson is this: people are more alike than different. When you travel, you notice differences first. Different languages, different food, different buildings, different customs, different traditions, different ways of dressing, different ways of moving through your day. And those differences are beautiful. They matter. They make the world feel alive. But the deeper you go, the more you start to see what connects people. Across 20 countries, I saw people wanting many of the same things: connection, respect, love, family, purpose, opportunity, peace, meaning, a reason to keep going, a better life, something to believe in. People want to be seen. People want to feel like their life matters. People want to laugh. People want to belong. People want to provide. People want to create memories. People want to be understood. That is universal. And when you understand that, it changes the way you move through the world. You become less judgmental, more curious, more open, more grounded, more human. You realize that different does not mean distant. Different does not mean wrong. Different can be beautiful. Different can teach you. Different can soften you. Different can make you more aware of how limited your own point of view can be. The world needs more of that, more curiosity, more humility, more willingness to understand before judging. Travel teaches you that through experience. You sit somewhere far from home and watch people live their lives, and you realize they are not background characters in your story. They're the main characters on their own. They have dreams. They have heartbreak. They have pressure. They have memories. They have people they love. They have a whole world inside of them, just like you. And that kind of realization makes you more grateful. It makes you more aware. It makes you more connected to the world around you. The world feels less divided when you have actually looked people in the eye across it. The fifth lesson is this: you find yourself by leaving what you know. And that sounds poetic, but it is real. Because at home, we all have identities. People know us a certain way. You have your routines, your responsibilities, your habits, your places. You have your people, your version of yourself that exists in the life that you have built. But when you travel, especially somewhere completely unfamiliar, all of that gets stripped back. Nobody knows your story. Nobody knows your job. Nobody knows your past. Nobody knows what you're trying to become. You were just there, a person in the world. And that can be so freeing because it gives you space to heal yourself again, away from the expectations, away from the version of you that everyone else is so used to. Sometimes you do not realize how much your environment is shaping you until you leave it. You do not realize how automatic your life has become. Same roads, same conversations, same thoughts, same doubts, same routine. Then you travel and suddenly your senses wake up. You are paying attention again. You notice the light. You notice the sounds. You notice your thoughts. You notice how you react when things don't go perfectly. You notice what excites you. You notice what you miss. You notice what you do not miss. That is where self-discovery happens. Not always in a dramatic movie moment. Sometimes it happens quietly. Walking through a city at night, sitting in a cafe alone, watching people pass by, looking out of a train window, standing somewhere beautiful and realizing how much life you still want to live. Those moments stay with you because they reveal something. Maybe you are braver than you thought. Maybe you are more restless than you admitted. Maybe you want more from life than comfort. Maybe you have outgrown certain limits. Maybe the version of you waiting on the other side of fear has been there the whole time. Travel does not create that version from nothing. It introduces you to that version. That is the difference. Travel does not show you new places. It introduces you to new versions of yourself. When I think about visiting 20 countries, I feel grateful. Not just because of the places, but because of what those places taught me. I am grateful for the airports, the long flights, the unfamiliar streets, the moments I had to figure it out. The food I had never tried before and it was so good. The people I met for a moment and never saw again. The views that made me quiet. The cities that made me feel alive. The moments that reminded me there's so much more to experience. And I am grateful for the way travel changed my ambition. Because once you see more of the world, it becomes harder to dream small. You start realizing how much is possible. You see people building lives everywhere. You see brands everywhere. You see music everywhere. You see stories everywhere. You see the hustle everywhere. You see beauty everywhere. And it makes you want more, not in a greedy way, in an awakened way. It makes you want to build bigger, create better, love deeper, move smarter, live fuller. It makes you want to become someone who does not just exist inside life, but actually participates in it. And that is so important because sometimes we wait too long. We wait for the perfect time, the perfect budget, the perfect plan, the perfect person to come with us, the perfect season where everything makes sense. But life does not always open the door politely. Sometimes you have to move before you feel ready. Sometimes you have to book the trip, start the thing, take the chance, walk into the unknown, trust that you will learn as you go. I am not saying to be careless. I'm saying do not let fear disguise itself as preparation forever. Because a lot of people are not waiting because they need more time. They're waiting because they're scared of becoming the person their dream requires. Travel taught me that movement matters, momentum matters. You do not find every answer standing still. Sometimes the answer comes after you move. And I think that is why travel feels powerful. It is not only about luxury, it is not only about vacation, it is not only about photos, it is not only about saying you have been somewhere. Sometimes travel is so awakening. Sometimes travel is the thing that reminds you that you are alive, that there is more world to see, more people to meet, more stories to live, more versions of yourself to discover. 20 countries later, I feel like I have seen a lot, but I also feel like I have barely started. And that is the beautiful part. The more you see, the more you realize how much more there is. So before we close this episode, I want to recap what we touched on today. First, we talked about how travel changes your perspective. After visiting 20 countries, you start to realize the world is much bigger than your routine, your city, your fears, and your excuses. Then, we talked about how the world is bigger than your problems. Travel does not erase what you are going through, but it gives you a wider view. It reminds you that one hard moment is not your entire life. We also talked about comfort zone. Comfort can feel safe, but it can quietly cost growth. Travel forces you to adapt, communicate, think differently, and build confidence in real time. Then we talked about creativity. Culture changes what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you create. New places give your imagination new material. We talked about people across different countries, cultures, languages, and lifestyles. People still want many of the same things: love, purpose, respect, family, opportunity, meaning, connection, and finally, we talked about self-discovery. Sometimes you do not fully understand yourself until you step outside of that environment that shaped you. Travel gives you space to meet new versions of yourself. That is the heart of this episode. Travel is not just about where you go, it is about who you become, because you went. So here is my message to you. Book the trip, see the world, leave the familiar, collect experiences, stop waiting for the perfect time to live, because one day you're going to look back and realize that the moments that changed you were not always the ones that made sense on paper. Sometimes it was the flight you almost did not book, the city you almost didn't visit, the conversation you almost didn't have, the risk you almost talked yourself out of, the version of yourself you almost never met. Do not let routine become a cage. Do not let fear make your world smaller. Do not let comfort convince you that safety is the same thing as fulfillment. You were not created to only repeat the same days. You were meant to expand, to learn, to feel, to create, to move, and to grow, to see what else life can become. Maybe your next trip is not just the destination. Maybe it is about the decision to stop shrinking your life to fit your fear, the decision to trust yourself, the decision to become more alive. Sometimes you have to leave home to understand how much world is really waiting for you. 20 countries later, I realized I was not just collecting stamps. 20 countries later, I realized I was not just collecting stamps. I was collecting perspective, and perspective changes everything. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode on Radio X, and I'm looking forward to sharing a new episode with you every week. Until next Friday, this is Adam Publicover, signing off.